Yeah, this picture is going to be going in the history books for sure. Israel and Hamas have agreed to phase one of a major peace plan that should be ending the war in Gaza in the next several days. These are photos of the Hamas delegation meeting with Qatar, Turkey, and Egypt. The Israeli delegation was also there. They were not photographed, obviously, but here they are congratulating each other, shaking hands, and celebrating the fact that they've just agreed to this peace deal. Here we have President Trump's announcement on Truth Social announcing that phase one of this peace plan has been agreed to and basically saying, here's the next phase. So Israel is going to withdraw their troops to the first phase line. I'll bring up that map here in a second. And Hamas will release all the surviving hostages. Now, you might remember, and we talked about this in my last video, and we've talked about this before. Hamas doesn't have a full accountability of the deceased hostages yet. And so it's going to take them a little bit longer for them to get those individuals and their remains collected and turned over to Israel. However, the good news is that the remaining surviving hostages will be going to Israel potentially by the end of this weekend. While at the same time, Trump is going to be going to the Middle East. He will be addressing the Israeli Knesset, and he will be basically announcing this peace plan more formally with Israel there. This is Barak Ravid. He's a very senior correspondent from Israel, and if you're not following him on Twitter, then you absolutely should be. I already mentioned the part that he's going to be going to Israel and addressing the Knesset by this weekend sometime. He also just had a phone call with Netanyahu to congratulate each other. We also get some details here. Here's a report from Jennifer Griffin, another person that you should definitely be following, saying that 2,000 Palestinian prisoners will get released in exchange for the 20 living hostages. A number of those Palestinian prisoners have been members of Hamas. However, Israel maintains that none of them were involved in October 7th. And here's the map that I mentioned before. This blue line, that's the current line of control. Actually, here's a key down below that I was blocking. That's the current line of control. This yellow line, that's phase one. So that's where the IDF is going to be withdrawing to here in the next several days to facilitate the hostage exchange. There are still some very important things to discuss between Israel and Hamas, especially who's going to be governing Gaza. And it's supposed to be a technocratic Palestinian government. Hamas will not have control. But the real question is going to be whether or not Hamas fully disarms and what happens to the organization here in the near future. Look, I don't need to tell you guys just how awful this conflict has been, especially for the past several years. Just devastating for everybody involved, especially the Palestinians living in Gaza. So it's an absolute miracle that it's coming to an end here, and it's really a coup for the Trump foreign policy. Look, those of you that have been watching a lot of my videos, you know I'm a pretty big critic of Trump, but fair is fair, and I've got to be real with you. His foreign policy with the Middle East is kind of goated. It was the case during his first administration, and it's the case here as well.